Ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not.
Greetings, gentle viewers. We're between series right now, so it's time for some special reviews. 4 reviews in 4 weeks, unless shitness happens. A lot of people have asked me to review Left Behind 2 and 3, and sometime I might, but not right now. For right now, I have something related, but worse. At least 4.8% worse. The Apocalypse Quadrilogy! This might surprise you, but in the time since I reviewed Left Behind, I have watched more Rapture movies than I care to name, and Left Behind is easily one of the best. And that's just depressing. This series was made by Cloud 10 Pictures, the same people as Left Behind, but with a fraction of the talent and budget. And the first film of the series, Apocalypse, is a strong contender for the worst film ever made about the Rapture, and the worst film ever made about Christianity. So this is Apocalypse. You're welcome! We open on 2 women watching TV. The younger one is Helen Hannah, the main character of these films. The older woman is her grandmother.
Are you all right, Grandma?
Everything seems to be falling into place, Helen.
And they're both English and living in America.
This shouldn't bother me, but how likely is this? The English grandmother and granddaughter living together in the United States. Couldn't they find any Americans to play these parts, or did they really think the audience couldn't handle related characters with different accents? Helen's boyfriend and professional Anthony Perkins lookalike Bronson Pearl comes to visit on the way to the airport.
Cloud 10 Pictures, give your leading men same names, please! He and Helen are both newsreaders, because this is basically an alternate reality Left Behind where everything looks a bit cheaper. Bronson's being sent to Israel to cover what's going on over there. Something about shit blowing up. Whatever's going on, it's serious.
I mean, what if the world is about to end? Have you ever thought about that?
Helen's grandmother is terrified that the world's coming to an end, and this is enough for Helen. She tries to convince Bronson not to do his job and follow the news. Of course, because his chin's large enough to land a fighter jet on, he can't be swayed by the hunch of an elderly woman, and so leaves to go to the front line. Helen and her grandmother check out how bad Time magazine's Photoshop has become.
Caught in the eye of the storm.
Comic Sans. Really?
You're going for Comic Sans. I don't know what to say to that. How do you react to that lack of any sort of thought? It's fucking Comic Sans. You do realize that you're supposed to be a drama, right? At least you think you're a serious film.
You're a drama who unironically uses Comic Sans as its fucking font.
This is gonna be like holding a 5-year-old out of their arm's reach by their head while you kick them in the nuts. This is not gonna be fair. This is like picking on a special kid. I'm still gonna do it, but at least I realize I'm not being fair. Post-opening credits in Oprah Winfrey's set and being filmed by Sin Wicked's camera is Helen Hannah. Just to demonstrate how different this is from Left Behind, she works for WNN rather than GNN.
Greetings! I'm Minion number 7004. Multiple Rapture-related films have been creating fictional news services by combining a random letter and an N. Apocalypse has claimed W, and Left Behind has been fighting for control over G. It appears that the letter H may also be in danger. We will keep you apprised as the story develops.
In Israel, Bronson has managed to convince the army to let him into a military installation. This is one of the times when you can really see the budget difference between this and Left Behind. They had Israeli NORAD inside a shack, while this has a tent inside a tent. Armies from all over the world are converging in Israel. Why? I have no idea, and I don't think the makers know either. It's as though they realize that the explanation for what needs to happen in order for their story to happen would probably be very silly indeed, and are instead trying to get away with saying as little as possible.
If we represent this film as a man, their attempt to muddy what's going on as some words, and this review as a book, then it would look something like this.
Klaatu, Veranda,
The simple fact is that Armageddon is the only passage into Israel that Mother Nature has left open. And that leaves enormous foreign armies only hours from Jerusalem and Tel Aviv.
What foreign armies? Who's attacking? What's going on? Tell me, film, or I'll bite you.
Hour by hour, every nation in the world is being forced to take a side in this showdown. And while the hands on the doomsday clock move closer to midnight, there still may be a glimmer of hope for the world. European Union President Franco Macaluso is expected to arrive in the area tomorrow morning. He is the one man who has the respect of every single party to the conflict, and many believe that he is the only one who can back us away from the edge of the cliff.
Who's that Pokemon? It's the Antichrist! Yes, in a stunning piece of originality, this charismatic European politician is the Antichrist. Nothing like Left Behind when it was a totally different charismatic European politician who was the Antichrist. The guy in Left Behind didn't look like he would try and sell me a condo, though. After the broadcast, Helen and Bronson talk. Unfortunately, some people in planes mistake him for Kirk Cameron and begin to bomb. Doubly unfortunately, none of them hit him. And the next day, we see this woman doing some more reporting. Now, audience, look at the image and try to work out the mistakes, while I drown someone.
Die, you motherfucker! Die! Die! Fucking hate you, Rosenhacker! Die, you motherfucker! Die! You're dead!
Now, mistakes. There are too many to list, but the obvious ones are here. There is no delay between the recording and the broadcast. The fact that the woman has been made to report beside an image of herself. The fact that these idiots have a screen at all. The fact that they gave her a name here, but not over here. The lack of subtitles. The obvious post-production adding of this image of her face to what is clearly a billboard. And of course, this. All of these. All over here. This. And I couldn't forget this one. And of course, this. Why is everything black? Why is everything in darkness? Turn the lights back on! Stop that! Fuck off! They then compound all the fucking mistakes by poorly digitally adding the woman's video clip over stock footage from all over the world as though they're all watching her report. They have her speaking aloud even though these types of screens tend not to have any sound for obvious fucking reasons, and a lot of people in these places don't even fucking speak English. And lastly, the fact that the woman's footage looks completely different from everything else in the shots is just special. So back at the front line, Bronson's talking again and still not explaining who's doing what to whom and why.
Command Leader General Alizar had this to say a few minutes ago.
Buck would have filmed Hiroshima from ground zero if he'd been there.
So the stock footage running unfettered and free certainly suggests that things are going terribly, but I have to wonder, what sort of assholes use real-life footage of real people fighting and suffering and dying for their silly little film? What sort of a fucker will use real pain just to make their terrible-looking film seem a tiny bit more epic? Well, I would, but I'm supposed to be the bad guy. Stock footage, stock footage, stock footage, stock footage, footage that is stock. Oh wow, something original, stock footage. Stock footage, stock footage, stock footage, talking about nuclear war in a way I don't think 2 camera interviews are actually done. And finally, Bronson is mistaken for a soldier.
You know what to do. Samson's fist.
General, I'm not a soldier. I'm not even Israeli. Why am I here? So in a complete curveball, the film does something slightly different from Left Behind and doesn't have the warring forces just explode in a flurry of bad CGI. Instead, the rapture occurs, which is nice, seeing as it's 20 minutes into the film, but why people's clothes have been left in neat little piles they don't even come close to explaining. God's obsessive-compulsive. That was easy!
I don't understand it. People all around me seem to have been vaporized or something.
Someone took my baby!
So Bronson and Helen miss each other in their camera link-up and assume the other has been raptured. Oh, manufactured drama that'll correct itself in a moment. You are a welcome change of pace. Well, in the same way that dropping a brick on your toe is a welcome change of pace after breaking your wrist. Of course, both of those injuries sound about as good as this film. I'm going to do some summarising because this film fits a lot of nothing into 90 minutes. The raptures happened and the world's in chaos, even in England where the amount of people raptured would most likely be 2. There's car and plane crashes because their pilots/drivers were taken, and God's proved to be just as much of a dick as he was in Left Behind. There's footage that they say is from Belfast, but it can't be because no one's fucking running, and all the nuclear weapons on the planet have vanished. I try not to make assumptions about the religious beliefs of weapons of mass destruction, but I have to confess, I'm surprised they were Christian.
We have just been able to establish a link-up with Bronson Pearl, who is now reporting from near the Western Wall in Old Jerusalem.
Obviously, Helen, today is a date that will be remembered forever.
I'm going to be nice and assume that the substandard green screen studio he's in is located in Jerusalem. Rule of acquisition number 76. Every once in a while declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies. Now in the aftermath of the rapture, the EU president and obvious Antichrist Franco Macaluso has gone to Jerusalem with an announcement.
I am the God of your fathers. I am that I am.
Mistress, do you think this is a good time to bring up Jerusalem syndrome? It's a recognized mental condition which involves someone going to Jerusalem and becoming convinced that they are God.
I think you just did.
I suppose I did and all.
Yeah, how does the Antichrist take over the world? By manifesting symptoms of a recognized mental condition, live on television. In a sane film, this man's career would now be over. However, he might be able to make a living writing shitty books about lizard men and selling them to equally crazy people.
I have had to remove some of the children because they had chosen the way of hate.
And if the people did believe him, he said he caused the rapture. He's the world's most prolific kidnapper / murderer. So it's just hit day 3, and this guy, who looks a bit like Dustin Diamond playing Michael Ironside and is clearly too evil to have a tie, waltzes into the news network and announces that the EU president, who in a sane world would be convalescing until he doesn't think he's God anymore, is taking over. He's the owner of a corporation that operates out of the United States. No matter how many ties you don't wear, you can't just grab control. And I hate to tell you this, but shooting the guy won't help either. You still can't own the news company. Helen Hanna finally drags herself away from her job to find her grandmother, who appears to have been oh so raptured. Of course, if she just walked off to the shops naked, that would have been much funnier. And through the amazing ability of a pink note that her grandmother apparently kept in her cleavage for just such an occasion, Helen is told all about the rapture. And back at the news, the plot thickens. Why is the Antichrist so interested in owning a news company who can't afford a decent green screen and appears to have only hired 10 people? And why is the Pentagon being played by a circus tent?
Without the direct intervention of God himself in the affairs of mankind, those of us unfortunate enough to still be alive right now would be living in nothing less than an apocalyptic nuclear desert.
Oh, and everyone just believes that the Antichrist is God. Why? Because the people who made this were touched in naughty places by logic and now they won't talk to it anymore. At least one man is willing to ask the big, important questions.
What does God need with a starship?
Meanwhile, Helen is going through her grandmother's sizable collection of rapture videos, and I wonder how someone who took several days to tear herself away from her job to check if her grandmother was still alive or not suddenly has enough time to watch tape after tape after tape of fat and or fashionably challenged people saying the same crap over and over again.
Oh, Jack, it is so exciting to think about the coming of the Lord when he's going to take all of those who have their faith and trust in him home to be with him.
This scene is the Christian fundamentalist equivalent of porn. Well, without the fun parts. The scene lasts almost as long as a quick fuck too, and here we go, the money shot.
Dear God, please forgive me for being so stubborn. Somehow I always knew Grandma was right when she told me I needed you to wash away my sins.
Someone get her an AVN! Helen has a run-in with her new boss. He tries to chew the scenery, but alas, the scenery outchews him. And no, I have no idea what that means. I'm not impressed with him, and coming with new ways of expressing that is getting hard. Bronson finally makes it back to the newsroom, and wow, I never noticed it before, but he has a weirdly shaped head. It's like someone tried to create a Bruce Campbell puppet and it melted a little bit. And he's dressed like Mr. Bean.
As you know, Bronson has been covering events in the Middle East for the past several weeks.
Even though this is day 4 and he left on day 1, I'll give you half a point because it feels like fucking weeks. So Macaluso is about to give the world's most important announcement to the world's largest audience of all time, and what's he going to say that could possibly overshadow the fact that he claimed he was God in an announcement yesterday? Let's find out, but first, let's enjoy the announcement badly edited into stock footage. You in on a secret. He said he was God again. So Helen and Bronson leave the newsroom and are followed by some heavies working for not Michael Ironside, but they manage to give them the slip by getting into their car and going to their house. The clever bastards. She shows him some tapes about the Antichrist, cunningly starting right in the middle of the talk so it makes as little sense as possible. Well, even less sense. The upshot is that he doesn't agree that Macaluso's the Antichrist.
Whether it's compelling, whether it's interesting, this is just ludicrous. I am a professional journalist, for God's sake.
Because it's clearly much sillier than thinking that he's God.
This leads to a fight and all the delicious forced drama that you get when people have religious disagreements. The next day, not Michael Ironside tries to find out if Bronson's loyal to Helen or to the Antichrist. Watching these two try and outact each other is like trying to watch a block of wood fight a bowl of soup. Luckily, Helen's not working today, or they might have been forced to try and have drama. We cut to Helen's house and a man is searching the videos.
Spoonie? 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 Hi, well, no, you've never heard of me. Listen, were you in Apocalypse? It's a Christian movie.
What? No. Hey, did you clone me again without asking?
Oh, well, I might have. Maybe sometime in the... Well, if you... Yes.
Well, I told you to stop that. Where is he now?
Oh, I don't know. I kind of lost track of him after he, escaped. But don't worry, I'm sure he can't be doing anything terribly important.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Spoonie Revelation. Today, I take a look at the best game of all time. Left Behind, Eternal Forces.
Yeah, this guy, who's clearly not quite evil enough to have no tie, is Spoonie. And back at the newsroom, we discover that they didn't choose the best guy to run the Antichrist media empire.
I'm a little worried that someone might say something damaging on the air.
Well, we could set up a 12-second delay system.
What's that mean?
It's in the fucking name. It's called a 12-second delay. It's a 12-second delay. It's not like they called it something insane like a coyote balagalagadagaga. Minion, come here. Thank you. What? The alligators haven't been fed in a couple of days.
So over in Germany, a gang of Christian and Jewish leaders have been having high-level talks about who the Antichrist is, and they unanimously came to the conclusion that he's the Messiah.
Stupid? Yes.
Especially considering that no one brings up the fact that the Messiah can only be identified if he fits a very strict set of criteria. One of them is being descended directly from King David on his father's side, though now I think about it, it is a little bit funny that the Antichrist claim to being the Messiah might actually be stronger than Jesus because the Antichrist actually had a biological father.
But I digress. Everyone thinks the Antichrist is God. Movie? Show me on the bear where logic touched you.
So Helen is chased by some bad guys for nefarious reasons, and we get to see the epic level of thinking these villains do.
You must have gone up the roof.
Yeah, she's fucking Spider-Man. That makes sense!
Well, about as much sense as Bronson's reaction to the announcement of a 7-year peace treaty. He goes off to dig up his father's grave, and inside the coffin is a pile of neatly folded clothes.
What?
He was buried a long time ago, months at the very least, and the clothes are in perfect condition. Okay, God raptures people. That's silly. God raptures up dead people. That's even sillier. And invites all sorts of questions about the atoms that make us up that were once and now dead people. But God dry cleaning old clothes that have been in a grave and neatly piling them?
That just takes obsessive compulsive to an insane level.
He's alive! He's alive! He's alive and I'm forgiven. Heaven's gates are open wide.
So Bronson reads the Bible and makes a life-changing decision to sit in the grave of his father and read until someone arrests him for desecrating the grave. Actually, no. Even though he's not seen anything more incredible than the stuff he'd already seen, Bronson throws up his arms and converts. I'm guessing he knew there were 20 minutes left and he's going to have to get his martyrdom on soon. Did I mention that somehow across the world being a Christian is now a crime? 5 days after the rapture, when most countries couldn't write and enact a law in 5 months. It's a good thing that they're working devilishly quickly.
That was a bad joke. I'll flog myself later.
After they all headed to the roof to find Helen, one of her pursuers somehow managed to grab and arrest her. Of course, after being arrested, they took her to the TV station because they knew the guy in charge of the local police station wasn't her personal nemesis.
You've got no idea what you're up against.
I'm not afraid of you.
Well, you should be. Don't mistake our talk of peace and unity for weakness. People want peace and we'll give it to them.
We're gonna peaceful them to death.
All they have to do is worship their Messiah.
And if they don't?
If they don't. If you don't, Miss Hannah, you'll see a side of President Macaluso you can't even imagine.
You do know that he has no actual power in this country, right?
I don't have to imagine, Mr. Parker. You see, I know what's going on.
Law, reality, international politics, and persecution. Just 4 of the things that the guys who wrote this have never been anywhere near.
I've read the Bible right to the end.
Oh no, she's seen the appendices.
You worship him or you die. That's your choice.
It's so fucking stupid but funny at the same time. This guy knows he's working for the devil. He doesn't even try to hide it. If he could, he'd have a satanic soundtrack follow him around wherever he goes. Excuse me, I work for Lucifer.
Who are you? How'd you get my house? And where is that music coming from?
What is left to say about this? What other stupidity can I point out? Blatant and unsubtle Holocaust imagery? No, that's coming up in a few minutes. Oh, well, there's this guy, who would have been much funnier if he was just a guy who wandered into the shot. But alas, no, he's part of the film.
Yeah, I don't see how these haters think they can put themselves and their paranoid ideas ahead of the rest of the whole world.
Hater are these films' idea of an anti-Christian slur. I'd have gone for sexual gynophile to encourage people to look up words they never heard of. Now there's footage from all over the world showing Christians being arrested. Of course, this makes me wonder, why are there so many Christians? Surely if they're real Christians, they would have been raptured. There can't have been that many people who converted to Christianity and were loud enough to be noticed in the 5 days since the rapture. Oh, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. They're using it as an excuse to kill people they don't like. So Bronson was arrested for yelling on TV that Macaluso was the Antichrist, and remember that I promised blatant and unsubtle Holocaust imagery? Well, here you go. Big as life and twice as insulting. You know who else but people in cattle trucks? The people who made Schindler's List.
There are more of these haters than any of us dared to believe. If they keep pouring in like this, I don't know how we're going to manage to process them all.
Maybe once they see their beloved Bronson Pearl executed on national television, they'll take a step back and realize that this is not a game.
You just went from zero to cartoony insane dystopia in 7 days. That's not how it works, except for in Glasgow. Bronson and Helen talk via either psychic powers or because their cattle trucks are right next to each other. I hope it's psychic powers. Bronson then uses his main character powers and channels his inner televangelist to Christians just as new as he is and is taken away to be executed.
Bronson! Bronson! I love you, Bronson.
With seconds until the execution, I smell a heel face turn coming.
Any last words?
I'm Bronson Pearl, and I always tell you the truth as I know it. And I must tell you right now that the world is making a terrible mistake. President Macaluso is...
Who's messing with my programming?
Yes, Christian Spoonie has joined the forces of good, locked himself in the control room, taken the footage that got Bronson arrested, some footage of Helen talking from earlier in the film, and I'm not even going to try and guess how he got a hold of that, and a video of some preacher talking and broadcast it to the whole world. I'm pretty sure people could stop that from happening from elsewhere if they really wanted to. Of course, the people watching who don't speak English are just going to be very confused. So people everywhere, including Japan, are affected and convert on the spot. Apparently the language barrier can't keep out the power of men with large hair and grey backgrounds. It's a small victory in the war for souls, and what the hell is Nathan Fillion doing in this movie? I'd call and ask, but the last time I did that, he kicked my ass. So the film ends. Bronson's got a noose around his neck and Helen's about to be executed alongside hundreds of other Christians. Remember this because it won't make much sense where we pick up in the second film of the series, Revelation. This film feels like a cheap cash into Left Behind. It's a bit weird that it was made before, but I'm pretty sure it was inspired by the original Left Behind books. Everything's a bit like Left Behind, but crapper. The lead being a newsreader, Kirk Cameron and Helen Hanna. The square-jawed male lead. Yes, I just described Kirk Cameron as the female lead of Left Behind. The relationship between the two leads is a bit different from Left Behind as well, but I suspect that film would make a tiny bit more sense if you assume that Kirk Cameron and Captain Steele are fucking. Even the Antichrist is pretty much the same person, but crapper. Left Behind gave us a Canadian as a young, badly accented but classically handsome Romanian. This has a Canadian who's not even bothering with an accent, playing an unattractive older man who's just vaguely European. Left Behind had Israeli NORAD, this has a tent. If Left Behind was capable of having Asylum knockoff, this would be it. And saying that hurt me more than you. I've been known to call this film stock footage the motion picture, but that's not entirely fair because this film has a counterpart, an hour-long film called For Those Who Remain, which was about 90% stock footage, and has been known to cause brain hemorrhages in people who try to watch it for too long. And no, I'm not reviewing it. This is terrible, it's just awful. I can't properly describe how bad this film is, so just go find yourself a thesaurus, crack it open and find a word that means bad. I'm Diamanda Hagen, and I'll see you for Revelation.
Revelation. Not the day of wonders. Witness the world of the Great Tribulation.
What have we to do with thee, Jesus?
A world ruled by the Antichrist.
And renounce it, Cindy.
And follow one man's journey to find his family.
That's my Wendy. My Meg.
Renew his faith.
Not even your God can save you.
And discover hope. Revelation. The book has been opened.